Welcome back to 0 to 60 Motoring once again. My name is Bill Siotuori and today I'm reviewing a 2016 Toyota Auris. So the Toyota Auris plays in a league that involves cars like the Subaru Impreza and the Mazda Axela. So definitely someone who's purchasing a Toyota Auris can also look at the Mazda Axela or the Subaru Impreza because these cars are in the same category and they are meant to serve a client with the same needs. So in this class, mostly someone is looking for fuel efficiency, something that doesn't break the bank to run, and most importantly, something that is reliable. So if you want car reviews, you can check our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get detailed car reviews. If you want a review of the Subaru Impreza or the Mazda Axela, which are competitors to this car, you can find written detailed reviews on 0 to 60 Motoring. You can also check our YouTube channel. We've done reviews of the Mazda Axela petrol, Subaru Impreza, and the Mazda Axela even in diesel form. So this is how this Toyota Auris looks like. If you are keen, you can see that up front here, you have this Sion badge. It's not the normal Toyota badge. It's because Sion is an overseas company that normally customizes Auris in some markets. That's why you are not seeing you're not seeing a Toyota badge here. So the exterior, you have this Sion badge here, at the back you have it, and the interior, it has those Sion finishes. So you have a daytime running lights here. These are 17-inch low profile rubbers. Of course, you have a Toyota badge here, sport. Of course, this one is aftermarket traditions. You have a lip here. This, of course, an aftermarket addition. So on the rear side, you have these 1.2T, of course, to tell you that you have a 1200cc turbo petrol up front there. You have this Sion badge here. Of course, Sion is an aftermarket company that normally customizes these Auris overseas. Of course, it's normally called IM Sion company. So something that could have given this car a better aesthetic appeal, I think could be something like a dual exhaust. That one could actually distinguish these sports variation from the base ones. Something like the Axela for the diesel, you have a dual exhaust, while the base models have a single exhaust. So if you want to purchase a 2016 Toyota Auris, there are 4 engine choices. The most common engine choice is a 1500cc, the ubiquitous 1.5 liter 1NZFE, which is applied in the Fielders, Allions, Ractis, and very many Toyota products. Above the 1.5 liter, you have a 1.8 liter 2ZR, which is also applied in the Toyota Auris RS and the Allion 18 variations. Away from that 1.8 liter and the 1.5 liter, you can also buy an Auris with a 1.8 liter hybrid. Now, the 4th engine choice is what I have here, 1200cc, or if you like, 1.2 liter turbo petrol. So if you're buying a car from Japan, those are the engines that you're going to get. Of course, these 1200cc and the 1.8 liter hybrid, they are not that popular, but they are there. So these ones are meant for those people who want something a little bit different. Now, this engine is married to a CVT gearbox, which sends drive to the front wheels because these are front wheel drive car. The power ratings of this Toyota Auris with a 1.2 liter turbo petrol is a 116 HP and 180 Newton meters of torque. Now, if you look at a 116 HP and 180 Newton meters of torque, that is more power than the 1NZF can do. That is the 1.5 liter, and you have almost same torque as a 1.8 liter. So you can tell this, while this engine is small, it makes almost the same power as a 1.8 liter. These days, manufacturers are downsizing their engines, of course, to improve on fuel efficiency and meet emission regulations. Of course, I'll be coming to the fuel efficiency part after doing the road test. So how does this Auris 1.2 liter turbo drive? You don't have a problem putting this car within the lane because of its size, and the handling is so good. Of course, because of that low ground clearance, which also contributes to good handling, especially around corners. The car feels very settled, and the suspension of this car is very soft, especially when it's stock. Of course, if you modify it, you go the aftermarket way, maybe you install heavy duty springs or spacers, then the handling will look somewhat different. But when it's stock, you're going to like how this car drives. The good thing with this 1200cc petrol is that you have good power, you have a good torque from low numbers, so you don't need to strain the engine to move, and you can always achieve a decent speeds without stressing the car. And what that means is that you should be getting good fuel numbers in return. So under normal driving conditions, this car can accelerate and keep up with other vehicles, or actually achieve legal speeds with ease without necessarily straining the engine. But if you want a good performance, you can always flip this car into sports mode. There is a sports button here, which I will give you some red theme on this display here, which actually keeps RPMs high, but now it gives you better performance. So this car makes up or achieves decent speeds with ease. Of course, having a 1200cc turbo petrol does not mean that you should be racing other turbo cars or bigger cars on the road. But basically, this 1.2 liter is meant to give you good fuel efficiency and still not compromise on the performance element to some extent. I'm completely satisfied with the performance of this 1.2 liter turbo petrol, especially after driving the 1.5 liter, that is the base model variation. I get good power from low RPMs, and on a flat surface like this one with a decent load, I'm achieving this is 80 kilometers per hour, and my rev is 1500 RPM. That is now the sweetness of a turbo engine. You really don't need to push it much to achieve that torque. Of course, there is some noise encroaching this cabin, but it's because this car is running on run flat tires, or you can call them low profile rubber, and they normally bring in some road noise. But when you're on a smooth road, it's not something that can be looked at as a big deal. On the highway, when maybe you want to maintain a constant speeds, and maybe you don't want problems where there are speed limits, you can use a cruise control in this car. You'll accelerate to maybe some speed, let's say something like 70 kilometers per hour, and then you'll use a cruise controller to maintain that speed. For instance, I'm now doing a 70 kilometers per hour. You can see my leg is not on the gas pedal, and the car is able to maintain that constant speed without necessarily your inputs. And sometimes on a good stretch, on a good highway, when you use a cruise control, the car will actually give you better fuel numbers than your normal driving, because the computer of the car, or the system of the car technically, will get the most or the best optimum for that driving, and that is why it will actually give you better fuel numbers. If you'll be purchasing the Toyota Auris, most probably fuel efficiency is among your priorities. Now, when you are driving these Toyota Auris on the open road where there is no traffic and you don't have a huge load, this car can return up to 17 kilometers per liter, because in this car you access a torque from a very low number, so you really don't need to strain the engine to move. So 17 kilometers per liter is impressive, because that is a hybrid figure territory. Because in the non-hybrid, the 1.5 liter, you can only do something like a 15 kilometers per liter, and the 1.8 liter can do around 13.5 to 14 kilometers per liter. So that is how fuel efficiency looks like in these 1200cc. And that 17 or 16 point something kilometers per liter, you achieve it when the car is under normal condition. Because if you flip the car into sports mode, of course, when you're looking for performance, it means you are going to now pay more in terms of the fuel consumption part. Now, when you're looking at the interior crafting of this Toyota Auris Turbo, it packs more features than the standard version. You have paddle shifters here to simulate a manual transmission, collision mitigation system, cruise control, lane assist, media control buttons on the steering wheel here. You have a sports mode down here, traction control, automatic start stop, of course, to improve on fuel efficiency in traffic. You have leather seats, of which these leather seats are actually heated. You have these finishes here with these badges. Sion, of course, because I've already told you, Sion is a company that normally customizes Auris overseas. So when you're looking at the interior crafting of this Toyota Auris 1.2 Turbo, you can definitely tell that it's not the standard Auris. So in terms of spacing, this is the amount of headroom I have. Of course, this is my sitting position here. You can see that the amount of knee room is not that bad. So maintaining my sitting position, this is how the knee room down on this rear side looks like. And this is my headroom, so you can definitely tell that the Toyota Auris is meant for someone with a small family, and of course this middle seat we want to be comfortable over long drives. So in terms of the trunk space of this Toyota Auris, this is how it looks like. Of course you can tell why I'm saying that this is a car for a small family. Majority of cars in this class, the boot space is not that practical, but that is how small hatchbacks are meant to be. But if you don't have something like a spare wheel down here, full size spare wheel, you can always remove this cover and have more space down here. So that is how the practicality part or the space part of this Toyota Auris looks like. So someone purchasing a Toyota Auris has reliability among their priorities. So these are 1.2 turbo, beats the 1 ZF in terms of the power numbers and the fuel numbers, albeit with the turbo complexity. Now, when you're looking at a 1.2 liter turbo engine versus a 1.5 liter or a 1.8 liter, of course, you can tell this is a small engine that is squeezed, of course, to make more power. And what that means is that because this has an extra thing, then definitely it needs more care than the normal variation. So definitely I've lived with a turbo engines, and normally if you want to live with a turbo engine, well, especially for this direct injection turbo engine, one of the things that you should take into consideration is that you should always watch your oil levels, so that you don't starve the engine or the turbo of the oil, which will of course affect lubrication and you'll get into problems. Another thing you'll need to live with, or you need to take into consideration with this D4T engine, is that you need clean fuel. So if you're purchasing an Auris with a 1.2 liter turbo petrol, I'll advise that you identify a gas station and you stick to it, especially when it comes to fueling, because if you fuel this car anywhere, sometimes you can actually develop problems. That's how you live with the direct injection turbo engine. So keep watch of the oil levels, and most importantly, use clean fuel. But if that looks like something that is complicated, you can always buy the 1.8 liter, which is a less stressed engine in terms of the turbos, but makes power. So when you're looking at dependability in the long term, it will greatly depend on how you maintain the car, but in a turbocharged car, there is always a need for extra care compared to the non-turbo one. Because now in this car, you have a turbo, which gives you more power, but the power is coming at that cost. Now, should you buy the 2016 Toyota Auris? Because many people have asked me about the value for money of this car and why it's normally looking like it's overpriced. Now, if you buy the base variation, the 1.5 liter, of course, it will be an overpriced car for what it brings to the table. Because for that 1.5 liter, you normally buy them from around 1.85 to 2 million shillings. But if you buy the 1.8 liter RS with a manual transmission, I find that a very sweet car, especially in terms of the driving engagement. And then if maybe you find that 1.8 liter a very big engine, then you can also consider the 1.2 liter version. That is the 1.2 liter with a turbo. So if you want a car that has more features over the average Auris, albeit at an almost similar price with a slight budget revisions, then you can consider the 1.2 liter. Now, for instance, these are 1.2 liter turbo here is going for 1.6 million shillings. Now, when you look at cars that you can get at 1.6 million shillings and what this car brings to the table, then to some extent it may not look overpriced. But if you find a similar version of a Toyota Auris with a 1.5 liter, the basic version, then of course it's going to look like it's overpriced. So if you want to purchase a Toyota Auris, but you want something that stands out of the crowd, then definitely you can consider this a 1.2 liter turbo version, or the 1.8 liter, that is the RS variation. That is in case you find the 1.5 liter too basic, or maybe you are looking at some features in the interior or exterior that you are not going to find in the basic versions, or maybe you are looking for a little bit of more power. That is a good reason to consider the 1.2 liter turbo petrol. So that is a short review of this 2016 Toyota Auris 1.2 liter turbo petrol. If you have a question regarding this car, you can always get in touch. And because this car is on sale, If you are interested in purchasing it, you can also get in touch with us on the number below, so that we organize on viewing and the test drive aspect part of it. I think that is enough for today. I'll see you on the next one.